This one is going to be short, because sea serpents play a huge role in ancient history. From the tropical seas to the deep frigid waters of the poles, sea and lake serpents are everywhere. Many legends and cryptids based on them. The celebrity of all dragons. Western dragons are the main creature that comes into mind when we hear the word dragon. From guarding castles and hoarding gold, to striking the ground with its fire breath and killing livestock, this dragon has become a mascot in modern fantasy fiction. We know that this is nothing more than a mythical creature. Or is it? Well, sort of. The Western dragon could very well be a mashup of different animals, but that doesn't really explain the ancient encounters of dragons that happen to match the Western dragon, so it's another possibility that humans actually saw this creature. Their evolution can be traced back to drakes evolving a longer neck, long tail, dinosaurian legs, and dorsal spines. The wings can be explained by a birth defect that ended up successfully creating two arm-like appendages towards the back. However, instead of disappearing within the next generation, it stays over time, with each generation, the arms starting to form into small wings, and these wings get larger and more robust until they can use them to fly, which means it's unnecessary to go all the way back to Tiktaalik to get a six-limbed vertebrate. They are usually depicted with membrane wings, but some are depicted with avian wings and even seem to be covered in protofeathers. This can be explained if at some point Western dragons had a split in the lineage similar to what was going on to create the amphibitier and coatl lineages. Fire breathing is just a system that is similar to a spitting cobra. However, it has a few modifications resulting in a fire-breathing system, all glands leading to heat-resistant exit points. This could be the fangs or other areas of the body. The methane gland stores heated methane gas, and the oxygen gland stores up oxygen, transferred from the lungs to the gland. When deployed, the heated methane makes its way toward the exit while the oxygen also makes its way to the exit. Upon contact when just leaving the exit point, it ignites into fire. Some dragons evolved an entire heat-resistant mouth, allowing for the fire-breathing system to evolve in other areas, such as the roof of their mouths or even towards the back of their throats. Western dragons are mainly known to breathe fire, but wyverns, worms, sea serpents, and some drakes are also known to breathe fire as well. The key to this is heat resistance. Their behavior is interesting too. Hoarding gold, camping at treasure sites. It must be a myth, right? I mean, it sounds so human. Why would an animal have such a love for gold? A few reasons, actually. None of these ideas are scientifically impossible. You know, there's certain things that attract certain animals, so how is it any different for a multi-ton reptile with wings to have an attachment for gold? Their ideal habit is anywhere where there is food. However, they seem to prefer isolated areas such as caves and mountains. They are always depicted as carnivorous and apparently have a big appetite for livestock, but don't bother hunting in the woods themselves. They are particularly known in Europe, but it's possible their habit stretches to Asia, Africa, and maybe even parts of North America. The Western dragon is one badass of an animal, and it can even give T-Rex a run for his money. In essence, worms are snakes on steroids. They're one of the most destructive, and they can be found all over the ancient world, even in Native American mythology. Not only we see them in mythology, but also in the fossil record. Titanoboa is one of them. Paleontologists recently found a snake in India that's even larger than Titanoboa. You know, not all worms had horns or breathed fire, so How are these snakes any different from the worms in mythology? If we take all the legends away and compare both animals side by side, how are they not the same creature? What is a wyvern? One of the two options, either a lineage of non-avian theropods evolving wings, or they are lizards evolving dinosaurian legs, posture, and wings. What I find interesting is that there are also feathery depictions of wyverns too. Some only have feathery wings, others seem to be completely covered in feathers, very much like how dromaeosaurs and troodonids are depicted today. This conclusion can be made if wyverns, both feathery and non-feathery, shared an ancestor that had protofeathers, though it would make much more sense if non-avian theropods survived to ancient times with feathery and non-feathery variants. Particularly known in medieval bestiaries, they existed all over the Eastern world. They may have existed in the Western Hemisphere as well, given a supposed dragon report in 1890 back in Arizona. The ideal habitat for them is wherever food is plentiful: forests, swamps, mountains, jungles, plains. Like Western dragons, wyverns also like isolated areas. Similar to Western dragons, wyverns happen to love gold. And like worms, wyverns are especially portrayed as evil and highly aggressive towards foreigners. They can also breathe fire or expel highly toxic gases. They are often used as symbols for madness. So now that we talked about all the historical dragons, here's some honorable mentions. From what I can understand, this animal is completely fictional and has no basis in mythology or folklore. Like Western dragons, dragonetties have 6 limbs. However, they have a stance closer to that of a theropod dinosaur than that of a drake. Also, they are strict herbivores rather than strict carnivores. Have you seen some of those older hadrosaur depictions that give them a bipedal stance? I bring this up because I believe hadrosaurs make a great candidate for dragonetties. From their herbivorous diet to their bipedal stance, is this out of the question? Since recent times, hadrosaurs tend to be depicted as being in a quadrupedal position, although many still debate whenever they predominantly walk on 2 legs or 4. In my defense, most of them had ridiculously small arms to be predominantly quadrupedal. To reduce the tension, I have a suggestion. Some species were more or less bipedal than others. It's also possible that some hadrosaurs adapted to an amphibious lifestyle, but most of them were completely terrestrial. The problem arises because of circular reasoning. Perhaps at some point, some bipedal hadrosaurs had a similar evolution like Western dragons, growing wings. I literally just said that this is a fictional animal. Stop whining. But anyways. 2. Arctic dragons. Similar to drakes, but they have fur, or should I say, protofeathers. They also have scales, but it's completely covered in protofeathers, which is possible if they grow between the crevices where each scale meets. They are particularly known to live in polar or mountainous regions of the planet. Like dragonetties, they are completely fictional, but not zoologically impossible. You know the theory that suggests that all dinosaurs had various degrees of feathering? Well, Arctic dragons would like to have a word with you. These are also completely fictional and are not known in any way in mythology or folklore, but again, not impossible. Although they're reptiles, some are very insectoid-like in appearance. The extra limbs can once again be chalked up to successful birth defects and mutations, particularly the wings. 4. Neodinosaurs. They're similar to dinosaurs but have more reptilian characteristics. They're similar to the dinosaurs that supposedly died out 66 million years ago, but are portrayed much more like reptiles than mammals and birds, with an evolutionary biology closer to the earlier theories of dinosaurs. Sauropods seem to be the most common of all neodinosaurs, but there are also theropods, ceratopsians, stegosaurs, iguanodontids, and a few others. There are also depictions or reports of pterosaurs, plesiosaurs, and pliosaurs around the world. Strangely, these animals seem to have dragonoid traits such as fire breathing or bioluminescence. Their evolution can be explained either surviving past the KT boundary or a similar evolution occurred some millions of years later and relatively recently, or as young Earth creationism suggests, created on day 6 and coexisted with humans for thousands of years. There is a good amount of evidence to support the coexistence of neodinosaurs and humans, from Eyewitness to various artwork and sculptures around the world. Genesis Park has some great material on this. You really believe dinosaurs coexisted with humans like in the Flintstones? Okay, I get it. It is bizarre and countercultural. But those smartass remarks have gotta go. What you see in the entertainment industry is just a watered down rendering of the actual thing. If anything, dinosaur and human coexistence would be closer to stories about monsters and dragons, so we can kiss that Flintstones crap goodbye. Anyways, famous dinosaurs include the Loch Ness Monster, Makalemembe, Killer of Elephants, Nugian Iguanodon, and a few others.